And now, introducing a man whose biggest kicks these days comes not from television and not from Baltimore sports, but from my needless Orioles rants. He is Glenn Clark.
Good morning. It is Glenn Clark Radio. Busy Thursday edition of the program. Lots to do today. Coming up a little bit later on this morning, I've been wanting to do this for a little while, just the way that it worked out time-wise. Bruce Cunningham, our buddy, now retired Baltimore sports broadcaster, although I believe you still hear him, as one of my colleagues now on 105.7 The Fan. Bruce is going to stop by the studio to talk about his career, everything he's experienced. I got something fun I want him to do when he's here, but our buddy Bruce Cunningham will join us here in studio a little bit later on. I've been looking forward to this for a while. Also this morning, Xavier Scruggs, a former MLB player, now an analyst for ESPN, is going to check in with us, talk a little bit about the Orioles. Know he loves Cedric Mullins. Tom Kelso, chairman of the Maryland Stadium Authority, will tell us more about HB 896. We talked about it earlier on the week. There's over $1 billion coming to be spent on the stadiums. So how's it going to be spent? It's our money. I think we have the right to know that. So we're going to chat with him about it. And also later on in the program, Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network, former Baltimore Ravens scout, lead NFL draft analyst for the NFL Network, will check in with us. We will talk about options for the Baltimore Ravens with the 14th pick in the NFL draft. All of that is coming up this morning here on GCR. Today's show brought to you by the Baltimore Police. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good, bpdrecruit.org. All right, so the Orioles played a game last night, and you guys have apparently been getting a kick out of the same thing that I'm getting a kick out of, which is the dichotomy between how little I care and how badly Paul cares. Paul cares very deeply. He is very concerned about every moment of every baseball game.
For now.
Well, I mean, okay, we'll see how that goes. I know what I'm getting into. And it's not, as I remind everybody all the time, it ain't like I'm not an Orioles fan. It's that I know what this is. This is one more year where it doesn't really matter. Now, there will be things that will matter, of course, that will occur as the season goes on, and I'll be invested in those things. So I get a kick out of it every time I see Paul losing his mind on Twitter. Like, I get a little worried. I'm like, all right, easy. Let's not go too far.
Sometimes I delete tweets.
Probably for the best. Probably a couple times you step over a reasonable line and into name calling and things like that. There was one the other day that if I don't know if you've deleted. If not, I would encourage you to delete.
Yeah,
there was one the other day.
It was a run-in with a random stranger who got very.
Oh no, I don't care about that. I don't care about any of that. It was something you said, the way that you described a particular Orioles player, and it happened to be somebody that was recently on the show. The word that you used went beyond. We have to be. It's fine to criticize. We need to be able to criticize constantly. That's what we have to do as part of our job. But when it ventures into name calling, and
was this on opening day?
Paul, I mean, come on, man. How am I supposed to remember?
Because I'm usually pretty careful not to.
You used a word to describe Ryan McKenna that I was like, I wouldn't use that word. I get it. I understand. There's disappointment in Ryan McKenna. I understand that entirely, but. It was just a particular word that you used that I was like, I wouldn't use that. I mean, not like I called you and said, take it down immediately. It was just something that I wouldn't do. I have learned over the years. It's something that I did plenty of. I've learned over the years there are other ways to go about making the exact same point where it doesn't come off as being more personal, right? Mm-hmm. Where if you bumped into that person on the street, you'd be able to justify it and say, look, dude, you're not playing well. Like, I have to be able to say that. That's the way that I always go about doing this. Like, if I see everything I say, I need to be able to go up to that person and say, dude, you can be mad at me, but you can't tell me that I'm wrong. And when you start, I think it was garbage. It was something like that. And I was like, I've done it. I know it. And I understand the feeling. But it was just, There's another way.
I usually try to be very careful. I got into an argument with a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and they said that Carson Wentz was outstanding in a game where he threw for like 160 yards.
Okay.
And they were so adamant about it. Eventually, I called them a clown, and they got super upset and like texted my wife and all that.
That's a way over the top.
And so I was, because they were her friend first.
Okay.
So I've tried to go out on my way to make sure I don't do that. I recall the tweet, and I feel like I may have taken it down.
All right, whatever. Paul,
Cooler heads generally prevail.
I'm not really all that worked up about it. I honestly, it was the one that I saw that I was like, yeah, I don't think I like that. But that's it's your Twitter. I'm not here to manage your Twitter. If I was, I probably wouldn't do as much Orioles conversation.
I still gotta be careful.
Yeah, no, that's all I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
I get it.
I'm not
trying to. This isn't. It's not a sermon. It's just a thought, right? That's all this is. So I get a kick out of it because Paul so cares, and I just don't. And it's not, Again, it's not like I'm not watching the games. It's not like I'm not interested in the games. I've watched at least some of every game. No, that's not true. I didn't watch over the weekend. I had other things going on. But this week, of course, I was at the game on Monday, and I watched nearly all of the game on Tuesday. And last night when I finished my lacrosse game, I watched the Orioles push across. In fact, I'm pulling up the app in my car. But it's nice to have an app. We got to acknowledge that. Nice that the app works. Mm-hmm. You can watch the game wherever you are. I pulled it up. I had it on in the background in the car, and because I really do enjoy the booth with both Palmer and McDonald in it. What's weird? I'm starting to worry about Jim because he's very much willing to take like a secondary role behind when they said this is the only time they're going to do the 3-man booth all season, which is kind of a bummer because it's been great. Mm-hmm. But like Jim very clearly is like showing deference to Ben within the booth. Like when there's space to jump in, Ben McDonald's jumping in first. Then Jim Palmer's jumping in. Some of that, age, I get it. I understand that, but it's interesting. It was just interesting to watch. So I turned it on last night, and I saw the Orioles plate the 2-run. They got a hit with a runner in scoring position.
Yes, they did.
And then I saw them give the 2 runs back. So I've watched at least some of the majority of the 4 out of 6 games. I've watched at least some of it. In fact, it's possible that on Saturday or Sunday I accidentally came across it. Not on Sunday. You know what? That's not true. It was on in the background while I was watching the Masters. I wasn't looking at it, but I saw it. So I've watched at least some of, I'd say, 5 out of 6 games so far this season. But I'm just not invested. I'll be invested in the things that matter. When I watch, I want to see the guys I talked about yesterday. It's the M's. Although, ironically, we forgot about McKenna as we were doing our list yesterday. I'm invested in the M's. I'm invested in, we'll talk about John Means in a second, Trey Mancini, Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle, and, of course, for more selfish reasons, Jorge Mateo. I'm invested in those guys. I want to see what they're doing. I want to watch. I want to care. I'm not going to get worked up about anything. You can't get me to get worked up about anything related to this team because this team's not good. Remember what I said last year when all the Ravens players were getting hurt? I'm like, these aren't the Ravens.
Right.
It's kind of similar to that. It's not the exact same because some of the pieces are here, but these are the guys that are wearing an Orioles uniform until we get to the point where they're real Orioles again. That's the way that I go about approaching it. You can't get me to get worked up about these guys. These aren't the guys. Imagine being worked up about Robinson Chirinos and Rufnetta Odor. Imagine. Just imagine. Allowing them. I'm not calling you out. I'm just saying.
He shouldn't be on the team.
I'm just saying. I can't imagine allowing. There's only so much time in your day. There's only so many hours in your week. I'm trying to finish the Justin Fenton book so we can start. I got sent the screener. I want to watch it, but I want to finish the book first. The NFL draft's coming up. We're going to be in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Myself and the NFL chick, Sarita Hubbard, on Thursday, April 28th, hanging out with you with great giveaways, betting advice, things along those lines. It's the best place to be. And if you want to guarantee your spot, email us, events@sportssocialmd.com. Basketball playoffs are underway. The Hawks came through for me last night. I needed that. Now I need them to win one more so I can cash in on my bets. Lots of stuff going on, man. So much stuff that I just don't have the bandwidth to get worked up about Anthony Bemboom, whatever that is. What Kriebel's first name? What is?
Oh.
You're the Orioles guy. You're the guy. The hell?
I know his last name's Crable. That's all I know.
Is it Crable or Kriebel?
I believe it's Crable.
I wouldn't know, so I'm going to be willing to believe you.
Is it John Crable?
Sure. You're telling... Dude, how would I know? I have no clue what the guy's name is. But you can't get me to get worked up about those things. But In a way, I find it, I don't know, touching that Paul still cares. So there were some suggestions made by a group of our friends, Brian Powell and Ken Zales and Andrew Steck. Everybody was having a conversation about this last night. And I was listening to some of the suggestions. And one of the suggestions that was made was from Steck, and he said, what I think you should do is, Glenn, you don't watch the games at all, and you give Paul 60 seconds every day, and that's all you know about Orioles baseball. Because I had made the joke that at some point during the season, it's you getting worked up about the Orioles is all I'm going to know about the Orioles. Because at some point during the season, I'm just going to lose all bandwidth. Like, it's all going to be gone, and I'm not going to be checking in. They're going to go through a 16-game losing streak, and I'm just going to say to myself, well, I don't even have a reason to check in tonight. I just have nothing else going. There's no reason. I'm not going to do that, though. I'm not going to purposefully say I won't watch the games. I mean, I do still do this for a living. I do have a radio show on, so I can't just not watch the games purposefully. There will be times where I won't, for sure, but I can't just say I'm never going to watch the games. I'm going to go to some of the games. I mean, come on. Like, I'm going to go to the stadium. It's still an event. It's still a thing to do. And there's going to be a first game for Adley Rutschman. There's going to be a first game for Grayson Rodriguez. There's might come sooner. There's going to be a first game for DL Hall. There's going to be moments where there's going to be significant investment within the community about the particular baseball games. There'll be a lot that aren't. There'll be the majority of them that there aren't. But there are still even some of those. What if I bet on the game that I'm definitely going to want to watch? I've been enjoying the extra innings. I've got, because where I live, you can't get cable. I literally live in this desolate farm area, and so you can't get cable or internet, but you can get the satellite. And so they were giving a free preview of the extra innings package for the first couple weeks of the season. I've greatly enjoyed it. I've been poking in on games. Was betting the Dodgers-Twins game at 1 a.m. the other night and watching. I found out that they might be able to be a negotiable price to keep the extra innings package, and I'm considering it because I've enjoyed it so much. I do still love baseball. I think people forget that about me sometimes. I still love baseball, and I greatly enjoyed it. I'm just not going to be emotionally invested in the Orioles until it's worth being emotionally invested again. And they say emotion, like I'm teaching my kids to be Orioles fans. When the game's on, the kids are they were losing their mind about Cedric Mullins hitting a grand slam the other night. That was so great, Dad. How did he do it? Well, he hit the ball really hard, kids. Yeah, but like with the bases loaded. Yeah, and that was the scenario. That's why they call it a grand slam. But yeah, it was they're being raised to be huge Orioles fans because I'm a huge Orioles fan. These just aren't really the Orioles. These are the guys that are lining up until the real Orioles come along. But I had the idea that Stecca was onto something. So I'm going to mesh it. Pull up your email on this computer because I've sent you a sounder. What we're going to do every day, or every day after there's a game, is I am going to give Paul 60 seconds. And I'm going to give him those 60 seconds to convince me of why something that happened in the previous game mattered. Now, I didn't prepare him for this today, so I'm putting him on the spot. He'll be able to prepare moving forward. Of course, we won't do this tomorrow because there's no game tonight. Mondays, I'm going to make it 2 minutes. I'm a benevolent man. 60 seconds on the clock for Paul to tell me why I should care. No, I mean, not yet. wait, to make sure that's lined up.
I didn't realize it was playing because I downloaded it. Didn't realize.
60 seconds will be on the clock for Paul to explain to me why something that, by the way, should be easy for this one because of what happened last night. Should be one of the easier ones in order to fill 60 seconds. But I will put 60 seconds on the clock for Paul to try to convince me of why it is that I should care about what happened in the previous night's game. Sometimes he'll be talking about a game where I genuinely have no idea what even happened. I may or may not even know the result. As the season goes on, there will definitely be days where I will wake up and say, hey, the Orioles won last night. That will occur. Sometimes I will have watched a lot of the game. I'll have known, or at least Twitter will have informed me of important things that were going on. I, of course, know the most important thing that happened last night because it's, potentially quite a story. But I will give Paul 60 seconds. I will not talk during those 60 seconds. I will not be combative. If he tries to tell me that something is important that I know is not important, I'm not going to say it during the 60 seconds. When the 60 seconds are up, oh, you better damn well believe I'm going after it. But for those 60 seconds, I turn. We are struggling.
I don't know why
We are
anything's
struggling.
playing. I haven't hit.
We gotta get that figured out. We will perfect this before air. No
Got
worries.
it.
We will edit all of it out before anybody ever hears it. Not at all. No chance we're editing anything.
I've got it.
60 seconds on the clock. We turn things over now to the man known as the 1 Minute Man. He's Paul Valley.
I didn't agree to that name.
60 seconds.
All right, so the game starts. You're excited to be there because it's Corbin Burns against John Means, ace versus ace. John Means gives up 2 runs in the second inning on a couple of hits and a walk. Orioles are down 2-0, and you're thinking this game's over. Corbin Burns isn't giving up any runs. And sure enough, he didn't. He went 7 innings, gave up no runs. John Means exits after the 4th inning in just 51 pitches, and everybody's wondering what the hell happened to John Means. Well, it turns out he has left forearm tightness, and that's not good. So another injury and another season for John Means. We'll see what that's about. Trey Mancini with runners on base after a couple of walks decides to swing at the first pitch, grounds out weakly to first base to end an Orioles scoring threat. They're now something like 4 for 52 with runners in scoring position. The Orioles then get the bases loaded with with 1 out in the 8th inning. You're thinking this isn't happening again. Yes, this is going to happen again until Ryan Mountcastle comes through with a 2-run single. You're feeling excited. The game's tied. It's 2-2, and they actually got to Devin Williams, who's a Cy Young winning reliever. Then the Orioles, who haven't given up a run.
So a couple things in there. It was an RBI single. There was a sac fly after that.
Oh,
That
yeah,
tied
you're
the
right.
game up.
You're
So
right.
it-
You're
but-
right.
but-
By Trey Mancini.
Yeah, that's correct. It was not a particularly well struck ball, and I was very much in fear that McKenna was going to be out at the plate, but was not a great throw from Taylor, who had made some other good throws during the series.
And he's fast, so he beat it.
100%. Boy, maybe he heard what you said. So thank you, Paul. You are a phenomenal.
I didn't get to say the most important part.
Well, no, the most important part is the John Means. That's the most important.
Well, yes,
part.
the part that I was upset about.
You didn't get to say the part about where they ended up losing.
Yeah.
You didn't get to say that part. So you got to perfect it.
Yeah.
This was the first one.
I thought 60 seconds was way longer than
Yeah,
that.
you gotta perfect it. Get rid of some of the minutia. You got to really settle in on what matters most. The most important things that came out of the game. So the most important thing, obviously, that came out of last night's game is John Means in the forum. Now, in the aftermath, it didn't seem like they were being very dramatic about it. I know Orioles fans were certainly being quite dramatic about it after the game, but it didn't seem like the Orioles themselves were being all that dramatic about it. I guess all we can say really is we'll see. That really is about all we can say about it until we know something more in relation to John Means. I know Nathan Ruiz from the Baltimore Sun tweeted out, just a reminder that in the nearly 2 months that John Means spent on the injured list last year, the Orioles' rotation ERA was 7.63.
Awesome.
But this year we got Jordan Lyles, so not taking that into consideration, are you there, Nathan Ruiz?
At least they can't lose
Jordan
tonight.
Lyles is here. They cannot lose tonight. Look, I can't say too much about John Means other than we'll see. The question that follows up was whether or not that would accelerate the timeline for one of the meaningful pitching prospects. Probably not Grayson Rodriguez or DL Hall, but maybe, say, Kyle Bradish. Could this be the thing that leads to Kyle Bradish making his major league debut? It's a reasonable question. But what did we say he pitched the other night? How many?
4 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 6 Ks.
No
walks either.
If he pitched 4 innings, that's I think that it's as Kyle and I used to joke about. That's an Orioles quality start.
Something like that.
That's we have a special statistic for that type of performance around here. So we'll see. We'll see is all I can say about that. The rest of the stuff you still can't get me to get worked up about it. You can't get me to get worked up about it. You can't. Don't care.
They don't give up a single run after the second inning, and then as soon as they get 2 runs to tie the game, the bullpen comes in and they give up.
I don't remember who was pitching in there. I don't remember.
It was Jorge Lopez.
Jorge
He gives up
Lopez,
a
exactly
base
what it
hit
was.
to Hunter Renfroe, who's 2 for 18 on the year, and then he gives up a 76-mile-an-hour exit velocity triple that took Anthony Santander. I timed it 6 years to get to.
6 years, you said.
And to
You really wanted to drop that one in the minute, and that's what you're mad about, is that you weren't able to get to that.
To Colton Wong, who was batting 150 with no homers and no RBIs, and all of a sudden they're down, and as soon as they give the run, they weren't scoring because Josh Hader. but it was
Well, but they had a chance. They got
guys on base, but that's not really a chance with the Orioles. They're
fair.
5 for 56 with
fair.
28 strikeouts
Fair.
with runners in scoring
You're not
position.
wrong. All right, so that is our 1 minute man. That is Paul Valley. We'll be doing that. It's my favorite part of this segment, Paul. I'm sorry. That's how we're going to do this. What happened in last night's game, and hopefully it is not significant, but we will find out. Today's show also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today. Former MLB first baseman, now an analyst for ESPN. He is Xavier Scruggs, and he is with us this morning here on GCR. Xavier, it's Glenn and Paul in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, my friend. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Hey, no problem. Good morning to you guys, and thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to chat with you. I was taken aback because you were tweeting about the Baltimore Orioles the other day, and there's not really anybody that feels like doing that in most of the country, Xavier Scruggs. That just doesn't happen a whole heck of a lot. But you're someone, it seems like you are kind of enamored with Cedric Mullins, and for good reason. We're enamored with Cedric Mullins here in Baltimore. One of the cooler stories of the last couple of years that just doesn't get a lot of attention nationally because, the Orioles are a very, very bad baseball team.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I look at as someone that covers baseball nationally. It's hard for me to ignore what Cedric Mullins has done. He's obviously been one of the bright stars on that Orioles roster, and I look at what he did last year from an all baseball standpoint. Right, it's not just offense or just defense or one dimension of his game. He does everything extremely well, and that's hard for me to ignore. I look at him being obviously one of the best center fielders in our game in a time when center field is at a premium. Like, this is a position that a lot of players that don't necessarily get the recognition that they deserve because there's not a lot of good center fielders out in the game today that can do what Cedric Mullins does.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate his game. But that's not the only player, right? I look at Anthony Santander. I look at John Means, obviously a tough night last night after exiting earlier. There's some players on this team, Trey Mancini, Ryan Mountcastle. There's players on this team. I just look for this team to develop and find a way to continue to get better because they're in a tough division and they deserve some of that national recognition as far as some of those individual players.
Xavier, where are you with there is this internally in Baltimore, this fan base wants to believe that the Orioles are laying a foundation, that they have the opportunity for this rebuild to come to fruition and replicate what Mike Elias did with the Houston Astros a few years ago. From an outside perspective, there's a lot of opinion of this is terrible for baseball, and the Orioles have the lowest payroll in the game, and there are literally players on other teams in baseball that are making more money this year than the Orioles are paying to the entirety of their roster. Where are you between the understanding what it is that the Orioles are trying to do versus, yes, but what they're doing is still not good for the game on the whole?
Yeah, I look at kind of how these organizations are ran, especially now today, and it's almost in a sense where you see other teams do some things. Notably, I think about the Rays, right? A team that does a good job of doing well with the low resources or not spending as much on the payroll and being able to develop good young players. But the one thing from an Orioles standpoint is the development hasn't been there from a starting pitching and a bullpen rotation, bullpen standpoint. So that's where I think there's a little bit of a mix-up. If there was a better job done from a development standpoint as far as pitching goes, then I think you would see a little bit better and a little bit faster of a development when it comes to guys coming to the big leagues and being ready to perform. Another thing, too, understandable that they don't want to spend the money right now, right? But I look at the rest of this division. It's only going to continue to get tougher. So when is it a point to where you say, okay, we have to be able to spend money in order for us to even compete towards the middle of this division? I look at the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, the Yankees, even the Tampa Bay Rays went out and spent money and extended Wander Franco, and they went and got Brooks Raley and spent some money that they don't normally spend. So there has to be a point in which the Orioles say it's time for us to at least spend something to where we can get towards the middle of this division and maybe make some moves with our prospects that are coming up as well, and look at some trades. So that's where I see a little bit of that disappointment, a little bit of that frustration, because this can be a better team as far as organizationally developing players in the big leagues.
He is an ESPN and MLB Network radio analyst, former big leaguer, Xavier Scruggs. He's with us here on GCR. Xavier, are you convinced that between the, what the teams are, what the league is successful this season, right? And Adley Rutschman's not here. I mean, every single one of them was on the roster on a value of being the worst team in baseball, right? The draft lottery that is coming starting next year. Are you convinced that they have done enough that we won't see prolonged tanking periods? That, there's always going to be bad baseball teams because not everybody can win 100 games, right? Like, the math doesn't work. But that we won't be seeing scenarios where teams will purposely be trying to lose 100-plus games every year for 4 or 5 year periods.
I sure hope so. I think it's the right steps. I don't know if it completely cleans it out. But I look at, and it's hard for me not to look at the Orioles, right? Because if there's teams in certain divisions where they know that they're almost in that rebuild process or they're starting over, it's hard not to look at the rest of the division and say, okay, maybe this should take a little bit longer of a process because of where we're at right now. But I hope for, I even look at prospects like Grayson or Henderson, guys that DL, hoping that's something to where the Orioles are capable of doing and how they bounce back, because I think it's the right steps that MLB has this past off.
Tough, because as the season went along, and especially as we got into the playoffs, Joe Burrow was so damn likable. And the Bengals were a good story, and Jamar Chase is incredible. And we found ourselves saying, like, there's no reason why we should like these guys or want them to do well, because they're literally in the same division as the Orioles. But we don't hate them as much as we hate, or not the Orioles, sorry, the Ravens. We don't hate them as much as we hate the Steelers. And I don't know, Joe Burrow is just such a likable guy, and he's so fun, and he's so good. And I, early on this year, am feeling some of the same feelings about the Toronto Blue Jays, who, are in the division, and we should hate them. And, the Orioles have actually played big games against the Blue Jays, played a playoff game against them 6 years ago. And I don't know, man. Like, they're not the Yankees, they're not the Red Sox, and my God, are they fun to watch. Like, they couldn't be more fun to watch, and I just feel like they would be so embraceable for a casual baseball fan. And I'm just feeling in a weird way because I shouldn't want to root for them. I shouldn't want to watch them. But damn, it is hard to take your eyes off of them.
Oh, man, you're so right. I was actually at the Yankees-Blue Jays game last night, and I think getting a sense of the energy that comes with this team, right? I think there's not so much because I'm looking at the Yankee side, it's more of a buttoned-up approach, right? And you got guys that are not as passionate, or at least we don't see as much passion out there on the field, as much facial expressions as you really see with this young Blue Jays team. And I think when you talk about even marketing to our generation today with the game of baseball, the Blue Jays are the perfect example of that, because you can see they have so much fun out there on the field. They let their hair down or let their hair up in that case, for Gurriel's case. And I look at how exciting they are as far as the atmosphere they bring to each and every game. You look at obviously a star-studded roster, but there's a sense of laid-backness with this team. And I think that obviously comes with a guy like Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who hit 3 pumps yesterday. Some starting pitching that looks a little bit deeper now. But just a really overall exciting team to watch. And I think it's an example of what we want more of baseball to look like. And I think that's why we're so attracted to this team. Even if you do work on or cover another team in the division, it's hard not to want to watch this team, because they bring it night in and night
No
out.
doubt, man. No doubt. It is such a joy. Plus, if it's them, it ain't the Yankees or Red Sox. So,
Right.
it's kind of a win-win for us. All right, two more I want to run by you, Xavier Scruggs. One, of course, there's all this debate about the Clayton Kershaw thing yesterday. I completely understand the thought process for Dave Roberts, right? He's trying to win a World Series. That's what really matters. The Dodgers have spent $1 billion on baseball. What matters is winning a World Series. But I admittedly am conflicted about it, right? Like there's a part of me that says, he said 80 pitches. If a guy throwing 100 pitches early in the season is going to waste him, there might be a bigger problem that we're dealing with. What do you make of the entirety of the debate related to Clayton Kershaw yesterday?
Oh, man, this is tough for me because obviously you guys know I played the game. I understand from a team standpoint, you got to get through 162 games. But at the same point, there's only been 23 perfect games ever thrown
Right.
in our in this time. So for me, I look at a situation where obviously it's not all on Dave Roberts, right? It's not all on the organization. Kershaw even said, he hadn't picked up a ball until the lockout was over. So from that standpoint, I understand from an injury history standpoint and all that. But look, I mean, if I got a chance to go out there and make history, somebody is going to have to rip the ball out of my hands. They're going to have to fight me for the ball. I don't care. And not to mention, Kershaw's on the last leg of his career anyway. So why not just go out there and finish it up if you can, or do what you can to leave your name cemented legacy in this game? You're already a Hall of Famer. Put the exclamation point on it by going out there and pitching the perfect game. That's what I wanted to see as a fan, even as somebody that's played the game, who understands all that comes with it. But I wanted to see him go out there and finish it just like I think most of us did.
And then the last one for you, by the way, I agree with you for what it's worth on that. The last one for you, the Mauricio Dubon thing from the other night, and admittedly, I hate everything about unwritten rules, Xavier. I rail against them constantly. I have no issue with a team still trying at any point in a baseball game to play baseball. Like if the other team wants to quit and say we promise you we'll take every pitch and you can just strike us out every time up because we're done for the game. That's one thing. But laying down a bunt, Gabe Kapler made a really good point afterwards about, hey, we're trying to see more pitchers tonight. Like we want to affect tomorrow's game. We want them to have to use as many pitchers as possible, and we want to give ourselves a better chance to win the game tomorrow because of it. And nobody, even afterwards, mentioned the thing that now everybody's talking about 24 hours later, which is we had forgotten about the game 163 thing, that game 163 is now gone, and the tiebreaker is run differential. I don't know any circumstance by which you shouldn't be going out and trying to score more runs at this point because of it. What did you make of it? Greg Olson, our buddy, former Orioles closer, was railing against every Orioles fan. He is ardent, hardcore, old school. You don't do this. This is disrespectful to the game. But I just don't know what the argument is at this point when run differential could be the difference in you getting into the playoffs or, being a division winner instead of a wild card.
Guys, this ain't your great-grandfather's game anymore. We don't go back. The old school rules don't apply every day to the new school game. Like, if this is a part of somebody's game in the 6th inning, this wasn't the 9th inning, right? This is like the 6th inning. If this is a part of his game and you want to see more pitchers, you're trying to affect the next day's game or whatever it may be, let it be. I love Bob Melvin, love the Padres, love especially Bob Melvin as a manager. But we got to understand this is not old school baseball anymore. Like, we cannot still live back in the day and say, oh, these unwritten rules need to be adhered by, and we need to make sure that we're focused on those. No, we're trying to win. Everybody is trying to do well for themselves individually and from a team aspect. Look at the Padres offense too. Like, this is an offense that can come back from any game.
Right.
Like, so we cannot just lay down. And for me, I look at it as a situation where I understand the unwritten rules, but we're in a day and age in which a lot of those things have to be thrown out the window. We cannot still live by the old age and a lot of what they did back in the day.
We could not agree more about this particular topic, my man. Xavier Scruggs, what can we plug for you? Where are we seeing you next? Where are we hearing you next? Social media, all of it. What can we get plugs in for?
Yeah, you can catch me every day, pretty much Monday through Friday on Off Base MLB Network. It's a new show talking about all the things surrounding baseball, not just statistics, but what are guys wearing to the field? What are guys tweeting, Instagramming? New show on MLB Network, 3 p.m. Eastern. And then you can catch me on ESPN Baseball Tonight on Sundays before the Sunday night baseball game, as well as Sirius XM in the morning, 7 to 10 a.m. with Steve Phillips on the leadoff spot. So, yeah, you can catch me in a lot of places, but appreciate you guys having me on.
Xavier_Scruggs on all social media, including Instagram and TikTok. My man, would love to do this more often. Greatly enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Hey, no problem, guys. Keep up the good work. Talk to you soon.
Xavier Scruggs checking in with us here on GCR. Paul, I'm going to run a couple of these things by you, too, just because you're sort of the resident baseball nerd here. I didn't have all the details on the Padres thing. When I went to bed on Tuesday night, I thought that Gabe Kapler was screaming at his own guy because that was the tweet that the John Boy folks sent out. And then Gabe Kapler after the game was like, no, I wasn't screaming at him. I was telling him good job. That's what we wanted him to do. And Stan and I in our segment, One More Thing, we ended up talking about it yesterday. I utterly had forgotten about the run differential thing. Completely forgotten about it. There's no argument. Look, I was always going to argue on the side of unwritten rules be damned, but I at least typically have said, hey, I understand. I understand the idea that, like, at some point it's a bit much. But anymore, that argument is dead. Like, the rules are what they are. The Giants might very well, especially in that division where both the Padres and the Dodgers are likely to be very good, they absolutely could end up in a tie situation at the end of the season. There is, if this was an Orioles-Royals game, it might be a more difficult thing for me to believe that the tiebreaker was going to matter. But for the Giants, the tiebreaker 1,000% could matter. There is no argument for me against Mauricio Dubon bunting in that situation.
So for me, I knew that they had found a way to eliminate the game 163. I didn't realize it was run differential till you said it. And then that and the point that Kapler made about how we want to see as many pitchers as possible to impact tomorrow's game, it makes sense to me. And honestly, on its surface, if I had seen that, I would have been like, what are you doing? You're up 9 in the 6th. What are you doing? But knowing about the run differential and the point that Gabe Kapler made, I don't have an issue with it. You're trying to score, and it's only the 6th inning. You can get back into this game.
It's hilarious how we pretend like you just have to let the other team have a better chance to come back and win. Mm-hmm. Like, are you guys saying we're not going to play anymore?
Right.
And if that's the case, then let's just call it quits, right? Let's just throw our hands up and walk off the field. That was always my argument against the unwritten rules. Have you guys stopped trying? Are you telling us that you're not trying any longer? Mm-hmm. Or are they going to go up there and they're going to swing to try to if you get a couple of runners on base, you're going to try to put together an inning? I was at that famous, this is a story, the Mariners-Indians, it was, 11-run comeback, something like that. All those years ago, my father's family is in Ohio. We just happened to be out there that night. And literally, we went to the game, and then afterwards, we had parked in a parking, because we left. It was so lopsided. But we parked in a parking garage that overlooked the stadium. Mm-hmm. And as we walked back to the car, people were like, there was a lot of noise. We're like, what the hell's going on? And everybody's like, dude, they're coming back. The Indians are coming back. This is crazy. So we sat overlooking the stadium in this parking garage and watched the game from there after we had left the game. It happens. It has happened. We have seen huge comebacks before. I'm always going to be opposed to anything that involves unwritten rules. We'll always be opposed to it. Greg Olson can say everything you want about, like, this is how you keep order and all that. Shut the F up. Greg, I love you. I love you. But you are talking about the game from a different era. If these multimillionaires are so fragile that they can't handle it, they need to seek help. They do. I'm telling you. You need to seek help if you're that fragile. And I mean, a lot of people should probably seek help. Well, most of us would probably be well off seeking help. During baseball games, Paul might need to seek help.
When you're at the game, you have a more vested interest.
I'm not, Paul.
We're not getting back into it.
I love you. Settle down. I love you. All right. So there's that. The Kershaw thing, what'd you think of that?
I understood it. I got it. I was surprised, but I wasn't upset because we've seen 2 other guys get taken out by the Padres on back-to-back nights where they had 6-inning, 7-inning no-hitters.
Well, Dave Roberts has done this a couple times.
Yeah, it's
did it with Walker Buehler. Did it with Ross Stripling once upon a time.
And the thing is, I didn't know Clayton Kershaw said he hadn't picked up a baseball since until the lockout ended. Which means, how good do you have to be first start to just go out there and do what he did? And he's a guy with back issues. You want him for the whole season. You're not trying to, a perfect game is nice, but
the flip side argument being
it's history. But
it's not just history, but it's also okay. But you don't know how many pitches it's going to take him,
right?
Like, if he goes back out there in the 8th inning and he labors a little bit, then it's easier for me to say, okay, you're done, right? Like, if it looks like, but if he can work through an 8-pitch inning, and if he can get through a perfect game throwing 95 pitches, if 95 pitches is asking too much of Clayton Kershaw, I think you got bigger problems all year long, right? Like, it's the only thing that I come back to is that you magically decided there was a number where it was just over, right? And that I've never fully been okay with. There's where I would say there maybe should be a little bit more give.
Yeah.
And I get it. The players have more power, and because they're making so much money, it might very well be that it was predetermined by everybody involved. No matter what, come hell or high water, we're not going past 80 pitches tonight. Right. But I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way.
You look at, and I think he did it against the Orioles, Johan Santana, for the Mets. He threw a no-hitter. And it was like 137 pitches, and they left him out there longer than they should have, but he got the no-hitter.
Yeah, that's an extreme number of pitches.
And the next thing you know, I think he got one more
start.
It
was never the same, right?
He was never the same after that.
Understood. The no-hitter wasn't against the Orioles. It was, who's it against?
No, R.A. Dickey threw the no-hitter against the Orioles with the Mets.
But
he did it like a week before.
It
was very close together.
The point to me being, I get it, but this wasn't 137 pitches.
Right.
In no ways am I going to encourage you to do 100, to go well beyond 100.
Right.
But 80, if the difference between 80 and you're hard pressed to sell me the difference between 80 and 90 being all that significant, right? Like, you're just really hard pressed to sell me on that for one start. So I would have at least seen roll it back out there, and if he gets into any sort of if the next guy works an 8-pitch at bat. And you're at 90 pitches with just one more out, then it's easier for me to say, like, okay, we tried, it didn't work out, we're done. We're not going any further than that. But I would at least roll it back out there.
Right. And I get that. At least let him start the 8th inning and see what he does. Now, I'm wondering, because I don't watch the post-game shows of these other teams, right? I don't watch the Orioles post-game shows. So I'm wondering what the thoughts were from, like, a guy like Sean Manaea, Yu Darvish, and now Clayton Kershaw after they got taken out and then the next pitcher gave up a hit to ruin things.
Yeah, I think that I just think they're at peace. I think once it's not them, I just don't think it's a big deal for starting pitchers to be a part of a combined perfect game or a combined no. I just don't like. I think it's an anomaly more than it is an accomplishment, right? Like, that's cool.
Yeah,
I guess I was part of that.
Combined no hitters, in my opinion, isn't a huge deal. You could argue it's more impressive.
I guess, but I disagree. It's just not. I don't think it's a thing. Yeah. The Orioles had one all those years ago. They've been on the other side of but it's just, it doesn't mean anything. Like, the no-hitter is an accomplishment of a pitcher, right? So I just don't get the sense after that it matters all that much.
How about Madison Bumgarner's 7-inning no-hitter doesn't go in
the
record books?
Yeah,
7
right.
innings.
The doubleheader, thing. I've said before that, like, you guys changed the rules. Like, that should probably reflect that at some.
Right.
But it's a different conversation. And then quickly, am I a bad guy if I find myself adopting the Blue Jays as the season goes on?
Are you?
Yeah.
No.
There's so much. It's just so much
Jose
fun,
Bautista
dude.
and Edwin Encarnacion aren't there anymore. That was a reason to hate the Blue Jays.
Well,
for
and
me.
Cito Gaston.
And Cito Gaston. They aren't there anymore. The Blue Jays are a young, fun team. They have all this talent.
They're so much fun, and they're not the Yankees, and they're not the Red Sox, and they could be what prevents the Yankees and the Red Sox from spoiling our October.
I don't think that you can do whatever the hell you want, but
obviously.
I don't think that you can adopt them as your team.
I'm telling you, I want to watch the Blue Jays.
But I think that you can want to watch them, and I think that you can enjoy watching them. But I wouldn't go around saying, I adopted the
I'm not going to buy it. I'm not telling you I'm buying a hat.
I don't know, man. What if your kids buy you a Blue Jay hat and want you to wear it every game?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I would say, no, we don't do that here. And they've already got me that hat. So I'm not telling you I'm buying gear. I'm just saying, like, it's really hard. They are very must-watch for me. They are electric.
If they're
for me
on
right
and the
now.
Orioles aren't, or the Orioles are in between,
Or they're just very bad.
I'm never going to stop watching, but I'll turn the Blue Jays on. Sure,
Really exciting.
they're a fun team.
They're really exciting. Hey, Stan the Fan and Gary Stein will be catching up with a very talented author. Otter? What is an otter? Somebody.
I believe they crack clams on their tummies.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. Jack Gilden, who has written a book about Spectacular Bid, the legendary horse. They're going to be talking about that tonight on Facebook Live, facebook.com/PressBoxSports. If you miss it, find it tomorrow. PressBoxOnline.com/video. And if you missed earlier in the week, Stan and Ross Grimsley catching up with the great Kenny Singleton, you can find that as well. When we come back in, we're going to learn more about the money that's coming to the stadiums. The chairman of the Maryland Stadium Authority, Tom Kelso, joins us next. Glenn Clark Radio. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Hey, O's families, break out your orange and black for Kids Opening Day on April 17th, when the O's take on the New York Yankees. Be one of the first 7,500 fans 14 and under to receive an Orioles Pop-It toy. And after the game, kids are invited to take to the field and run the bases like the pros. All presented by Wise Markets. Plus, experience a family fun day at the yard with caricatures, the Easter Bunny, and more. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of Camden Yards with Kids Opening Day. Buy now at Orioles.com/kids.
Baseball is back, and so is the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash-fried pork belly with our popular Korean No. 2 sauce, and take a bite out of the Crunch Burger, topped with home run sauce, white American cheese, and house-made chips. It also features irresistible options like a baseball-cut sirloin with blue cheese, grilled shrimp with garlic butter, and a strawberry salmon salad. And then there's the closer, the Cracker Jack Sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jack. This menu will be gone at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com to find out more. Great food, good sports.
The newest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland men's basketball's 2002 NCAA Tournament Championship, as Gary Williams reflects on how the program rose from the ashes of NCAA sanctions to the pinnacle of the sport, and why his perspective of the title run has changed now 2 decades later. Plus, Juan Dixon, Lonnie Baxter, and the rest of the team relive the moments that ultimately led them to cutting down the nets in Atlanta. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farms stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
If you miss anything, don't forget that you can find whole shows later on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon Podcast. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
All right, back in here on GCR. We were talking a lot earlier in the week about the passage of HB 896 in the legislature this week, which will commit over $1 billion of funding for the downtown stadiums. And joining us now to explain it more to us is the chairman of the Maryland Stadium Authority. He is Mr. Tom Kelso and is with us now here on GCR. Tom, it's Glenn and Paul. It's great to catch up with you. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Absolutely, guys. I really appreciate you having me on. And, Yeah, I look forward to talking with you today.
Well, Tom, can understand I am a noted dumb guy, all right? This is why I do what I do for a living. If I had real skills, I'd probably be using them somewhere. But I'm here and I yak about dumb things. So can you meet me at my level? Explain to me like I'm 5, why is the passage of this bill so important, and what does it tangibly mean for the Maryland Stadium Authority, for the downtown stadiums?
Well, that's a great question and a great way to phrase it. And I'm going to try to unpack it some for you. The bill really does a number of things. The first thing it does is that it allows the stadium authority to borrow up to $1.2 billion at any one point in time to reinvest in the Camden Yards Sports Complex. And that's essentially $600 million to the Oriole Park portion of the complex and $600 million to the M&T Bank Stadium portion of the complex. So, and the idea is that this money would be used for reinvestment in the stadiums and the surrounding portions of the complex in order to really increase the fan experience so that the teams have the greatest likelihood of being able to continue to maximize the live attendance at baseball games, football games, entertainment events, and, down the road, hopefully be able to morph the complex into, somewhat more of a live, work, play environment where it becomes more integrated into the surrounding neighborhood, and that, the complex, has utilization on more than just game days or when there are concerts. So that's important from that perspective. And when I say up to $1.2 billion outstanding at any one time, is that as bonds are issued and the debt is repaid, is that we can borrow back up to $1.2 billion. So what this will allow is for not just current investment or reinvestment in the stadiums, but it will allow for future reinvestment in the stadiums because it has an evergreen feature. And this is important for a number of reasons. One is that if we want to extend the useful lives of these stadiums, which we do, and it's a lot cheaper to reinvest in them than it is to build new ones, we need to do this. But the other is that in order to access the money, the teams would have to have a lease or a lease extension with the Maryland Stadium Authority that would be at least as long as the longest bond that would be issued and outstanding. So it's essentially a way to keep the partnerships with the teams ongoing to where we don't have these lease cliffs like we've, essentially have come to with the Orioles after their 30-year lease is expiring. So it's a way to really further develop this partnership between the teams and the MSA, maximize the value and the return that all parties can derive from the stadium, and really by really increasing the opportunities for improving the fan experience, not just today, but as the needs on the fan experience desires continue to change in the future, is that we can continue to modify the stadiums, to create the venues within the stadiums to be able to watch games or watch entertainment events and partake in other things that might happen at the stadiums the way people really want to do it.
Tom, that was pretty good for trying to dumb it down for a guy like me, by the way. That was well handled.
Well, I had to dumb it down for myself first. So,
Tom Kelso, the chairman of the Maryland Stadium Authority, with that in mind and what you just said related to the lease, are you confident that this was the sort of the final domino that needed to fall in order to get a new lease done specifically with the Baltimore Orioles?
Well, we have a phenomenal relationship with both teams. And we've had a lot of meaningful discussions with the Orioles about how we would go forward. And certainly the construction of this bill was highly influenced by discussions that, we've had with the Orioles senior management. So we are confident. And if you know what John Angelo's posted
Yep.
on the team website on Monday, you know that the Orioles are really excited about this opportunity to be able to work with us and to help reimagine Camden Yards for the next generation of fans. But, you know, as you try to work out a new agreement, I mean, you know, it requires both parties to, you know, make some decisions. And, you know, we'll get there. I have no doubt that we'll get there. But we still need to go through the exercise before we can actually issue bonds. But that doesn't prevent the teams from surfacing concepts, from the Stadium Authority to begin working on looking at feasibility of those concepts, costing those concepts, working with the teams to refine those concepts. So, you know, it's not like the team is going anywhere. We're confident of that, and that it's just a matter of time before we complete the new lease or a lease extension, which is feasible, and, you know, actually begin construction on new projects.
Tom Kelso with us on GCR. Tom, it sounds in listening to you like the idea of the area around the stadium is kind of a priority, and I've heard people compare like what happens in Boston around Fenway Park, or in Foxborough there's the area, I think it's called Patriot Place, right outside the stadium. Do we believe, again, I'm going to use the word confident, can we feel confident that that is going to be a part of this next phase for Camden Yards, that the Camden Yards complex, and I don't know if it's the space between the stadiums or where it would be, will involve something like that, a more, you know, as you say, live, work, play, right? That type of thing, and entertainment, restaurants, office space, whatever it is, being part of the actual stadium complex in the years to come.
I think the answer is yes. I think it's inevitable. You know, in addition to the locations that you listed, you know, if you think about what happened in Atlanta, if you look at what's being done in St. Louis, what's being done around the new Texas Rangers Stadium, you look at what's being done in Seattle and Denver and places like that, you know, incorporating live and work and other options for play, you know, surrounding these stadium investments is really important. And so, you know, one of the big selling points of this legislation is that this is leverageable investment. So the state is willing to make these investments, but that doesn't preclude the teams or from third parties of also making investments. So we don't need to do it all with state money. As a matter of fact, I feel certain is that we probably couldn't do it all with state money. But we have to begin that planning process and begin to surfacing these opportunities so that the teams and, you know, potentially third-party developers, you know, can come in and look and see what opportunities are available and make us proposals. But we shouldn't forget is that there's a large private investment already south of the M&T Bank Stadium with the Horseshoe, Top Golf, the Paramount Theater, and we want to open that gateway up too so that M&T Bank Stadium becomes more integrated into what's happening south of the stadium. We really want to concentrate and do more of that north of the stadium, where there's been private investment, but it's been, you know, less effective in terms of really creating a pathway or a gateway into the stadium complex. And we want to focus on that as well. You know, there's a lot of theoretical things that can be done, but we can't do it all by ourselves. And we have to, you know, use the $600 million in each stadium as smartly as we possibly can to incent other people to come in and invest. And if you go back to the mid to late 1980s when Oriole Park, the Camden Yards complex, was conceived, you know, the idea was to increase residential, to increase business investment, to increase entertainment options in this part of Baltimore. And for whatever reason, we haven't gotten there yet. And partly it's because things always take more time than we would like for them to take. But I think we need to remain true to the vision of what this complex was intended to do, not just have two stadiums, but to really activate a portion of the city that can become more dynamic.
Just another couple minutes here with Tom Kelso from the Maryland Stadium Authority. He's the chairman, of course, of the Maryland Stadium Authority. Tom, specifically when we brought this up with listeners the other day, and said, "Hey, I'm giving you the money to spend. What is it? What do you dream of? What is it that you want?" As you wouldn't be surprised, a lot of people bring up the idea of a roof over the football stadium. And the Ravens have pushed back on just about anything. They constantly talk about over the years the value of playing to the weather and how it fits what they're trying to do. And then you sort of combine that with I don't even know what the feasibility of something like that is. Like, I don't know if there's any amount of money that would make it work. Is it at all a thought? We all know what other opportunities can come for events and dates when a stadium has the ability to have a roof over it. Is it at all even possible for these conversations?
Well, theoretically, from an engineering standpoint, it's my understanding is that it is possible. The question is do you get a return for that incremental investment? And are there enough things that you could program on a 365-day-a-year basis inside that would justify making that large of an investment? And, the Ravens, from a team perspective, they've not shown any desire to do that.
Yep.
And I think that everybody remains skeptical that that kind of investment would actually provide the types of returns that we're looking for. So that's not to say that it can't be done. And just what we know today will change. What we'll know 5 years from now will be different. What we'll know 10 years from now will be different. And so the beauty of this legislation is it doesn't contemplate that everything has to be done today, that it can be done in a series of investments over time. And it doesn't just contemplate state funding. It contemplates other funding so that, as people see opportunities in the future and things become more feasible, it doesn't prevent us from doing those things.
And then the last one that I have for you, Tom, is, you talk about state funding and people mention this is public funding we're discussing. And it was brought up to me by a couple of different people that should allow, some more public access. We used to see like City Poly, the football game being played at the football stadium, and the state high school championship games were played there, and then they put in natural grass, and then they were reluctant to have those events be there because of what it did to the field. Is there something to be said for, hey, if we're talking about public money, we might need to meet in the middle a little bit and allow for there to be more public opportunities for the community to have events at these facilities?
Well, you're talking about inside the stadiums on the playing fields,
yep.
Which is a little bit different than what we do a lot of, which is making the stadiums themselves, the building facilities and the parking lots available for lots of functions, whether they're races or festivals or what have you. And we like to do more of that. And the Stadium Authority works actively with groups that, want to come to the complex and bring events. We do that. As for, what goes on in the stadiums on the playing fields, we lease these stadiums to the teams 365 days a year. And, it's their job to program them, but also to protect their own investments. So, I understand where the Ravens were coming from. They weren't trying to be dismissive of the value of Poly City or Loyola Calvert Hall or the other state football championship games. But when they did go to natural grass, is that if there's an NFL game that Sunday or that Monday night after that game, and it's a torrential downpour that day of the high school games, is that you can't put that turf back into NFL playing shape. And, the teams have large investments in players, and the players have large investments in their careers. So, there's a push-pull there, if you will.
Yep.
So, I know the Ravens have heard this. I know they heard it from Senator McCray when we testified in front of the Budget and Tax Committee the other day. And I know that they're, looking at the various options. And, and I'm, unsure, what number of groups would be able to be on the field at Oriole Park. But, the Orioles have opened this up now to doing concerts where the stages are set up on the field, et cetera, and are trying, through different things to, give people access. One of the other things that we want to do as an authority is to open the stadiums up for tours, maybe in conjunction with Baltimore City Schools. We're building all of their brand new schools, and we have a great relationship with city schools. And, maybe we could bring in groups of students every year and really give young people access, to something that they may not otherwise have a chance to see.
I like that.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
That's fun stuff.
Yeah, maybe even incorporating, as we talk about that sort of live, work, play, maybe incorporating like a team museum, something along those lines with something like that. That would make a lot of sense. All right,
yes.
Tom Kelso, I know people can follow the Maryland Stadium Authority on Twitter at MD Stadium AUTH, Authority shortened, and it's mdstad.com is the website. Is there anything else if people are looking for more information or have questions? Is there anywhere else we can guide them?
No, I think that's the best place to go, and I know that the teams will, as they develop these concepts, they want to get the marketing benefit from getting some of these ideas out and getting fan feedback and stuff. So, I would think that the next 10 to 12 months are going to be a, pretty exciting time, at least conceptually. And at Oriole Park, as they start bringing in new players and the idea of some investments in the stadium, I think that's going to help generate a lot of interest going into to next year.
Tom, we will be in touch as we learn more. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Hey, guys, thanks a lot. Appreciate the opportunity.
Tom Kelso, chairman of the Maryland Stadium Authority, joining us here on Glenn Clark Radio. And with that in mind, let me welcome in a friend of mine. I believe we're colleagues again now on 105.7 The Fan. He is no longer a working stiff. And I think I can tell because he's got a 5 o'clock shadow going. And he is the great Mr. Bruce Cunningham, and he is with us here in studio. It is great to see you, my friend.
You. It's great to be seen. My dad always says he'd rather be seen than viewed.
Yeah, okay, well, now to explain that to me. What's the thought process there?
When you die, you're
viewed. All right,
he's 94.
You know what? My bad, Bruce. I should have been on top of that one. That one was a good one. Great to see you. Thank you for stopping in.
Sure.
Just because we're coming on the tail end of that conversation, you hear these numbers. $1.2 billion.
Yeah.
Now, it's borrowed. It's not all just being given. It's borrowed. But that's a lot of public money.
Yeah.
And I know how much you care about sports. I know you understand what sports can do for a community. But you also know there are going to be people that are always going to push back on that and say, yeah, have you seen my road? Have you seen the school I'm sending my kids to right now? What are we doing?
Well, the rule in any investment is, am I going to lose money? You never lose money on deals like this if you're the state. The tax revenue comes back at you. And this whole stadium Russian roulette game has been played now for 40 years probably. And even if you have a facility built for you, you're going to put pressure on to continually improve it.
Yep.
You're going to want to be right at the top. And so, yeah.
And the teams have the leverage because there's always another community that's willing to it's what I talk about with quarterbacks right now in the NFL. They've got all the leverage because there's somebody that doesn't have one.
Right.
And right now, Portland and Las Vegas and Nashville and all of these places, Indianapolis, Charlotte, they all look and say, what could give our economy a boost if we had a professional baseball team?
Yeah, Twins and turned it down when the Twins are trying to get the new stadium built, and they weren't interested. If Nashville wants a team, well, Tampa Bay's sitting down there just waiting for the phone to ring.
They're not in a great situation.
No stadium deal.
Right.
And then on the West Coast, if you're talking about Las Vegas, the Oakland A's.
They make a lot of sense.
No stadium deal.
100%.
Baseball.
They at least have a plan in Oakland, right?
They do. But if you go into a community that hadn't had baseball, and you go to the fan base and you say, all right, I'm open 81 nights. Let's have your money.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to ask for from a, let's say, uneducated fan
It's
base.
It's fair, but a lot of people said the same thing about hockey when it went to Vegas, right?
Yes.
And said, really? Vegas? It's a small market. Can you make it work? Well, as it turns out, it's one of the most successful franchises in the league.
It works.
It's worked significantly well. They've figured out that Vegas can be a major player as a sports market.
Look, if they want a baseball team, build a stadium, and they will get a baseball team.
I'm not in any way suggesting that the Orioles when we do this bit where people are like, the Orioles might move. I'm not playing that game.
Nah,
what I'm saying is there's a reason why the state of Maryland has to do something like this.
Yes.
Is because the leverage exists for the teams to say, hey, look, you don't want to invest more money right now. That's fine. This place does.
Yeah.
Maybe we speed the process up a little bit.
They're a small market team now, the Orioles are. Small market teams don't exist in the NFL because, it's
revenue sharing.
It's such a socialistic organization. And the great irony is you've got 32 of the largest capitalists in the world,
right.
and they belong to the
socialistic. Yeah, that's a great point,
Bruce. It really is. It's socialistic as hell.
100%.
But they will remain a small market franchise. So what they have to do is sort of conquer or learn the formula that they have in Tampa Bay and other places, Oakland to a lesser extent. You got to find a way to win anyway. You
bring that up. I got so much I want to cover with you. I don't know if an hour is going to be enough. We might have to do this more frequently. Or you might have to come sit in with Rita and I on Sundays at some point. The idea of replicating Tampa is something that's been very difficult for me, right? Because we talked about this at the beginning. I remember having lengthy conversations about how you approach this and doing something like a rebuild. And replicating Tampa is cold and it's calculated. Mm-hmm. And it's very difficult to get kids invested in your baseball team because you're constantly going to trade away the players they love. That's the way it's going to work.
An old baseball guy I know was in the game 50, 60 years. He said, baseball stayed out of Florida until the 80s, and maybe they were right.
Interesting.
It just neither team has really burnt the woods down, in terms of attendance or support or anything like that. So it's hard to figure. But then again, the Marlins have some of the highest TV ratings in the league. So
it's ironic. It's ironic. But the idea being that in Tampa, they found a way to win, but it still hasn't engaged the community.
No.
Now, I know part of it we talked about that I didn't know about at first was just the sheer distance between the stadium and the actual Tampa community.
Yeah,
it's insane where they built the stadium.
You got to take this awful interstate that goes around.
It's badass. As someone, Bruce, I'm a Coyotes fan because I spent a couple years out in Phoenix, and we never had a hockey team here, right? Like I was not ingrained with hockey in any way growing up because I was.
Well, we did.
Well, okay, we never had an NHL team specifically.
No.
And I did go to Skipjacks games, and I went to Bandits games. I went to all those things, but I wasn't.
When we first started over at Fox 45, the conversation's about to get freewheeling.
Oh, okay? Sure. What the hell? What are we doing? Go crazy.
Sports Unlimited, when it first started, 91 to say maybe 95, 96, we had a set that was lockers. And all the teams had given us jerseys to hang. And the interns had to go out and hang the locker,
Sure.
I have a Skipjacks jersey. And on the back where it should have a last name, it says Fox. And then, of course, it's number 45.
45, right, of course. That makes sense.
I have a Bandits jersey.
I went to a Bandits game. I couldn't even tell you anything about the Bandits experience to this day. Like, I don't remember it existing, other than I remember being excited about it when it happened because I wanted to get into hockey.
The guy that owned the Skipjacks and moved them to Portland, where they've been very successful. Tom Ebright, I think was his name.
Okay.
He said, it's just hard to operate a minor league franchise
in a major league town. 100%. It's very difficult to do.
Yes.
So I move out to Phoenix, and I fall in love with hockey because I'm working on the station that's got the Coyotes, and they're having me do pregame and postgame, which I was woefully unqualified for. And literally the postgame show was turning the all right, the Coyotes lose tonight 3-1. Want to hear from you guys, and then just taking calls for letting them go and then saying, all right, Phil, sounds good, man. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Like, that was all I could, because I didn't know the game. I just didn't know it, but I fell in love with it. And so I became a Coyotes fan, and people always trash the Coyotes, right? Nobody goes to the games, and they don't understand the arena is way out in the desert in West Phoenix, where I had a job on the east side of town, and in order to get over there for games, it would take me an hour to get there afterwards. And they don't understand what a significant problem it is. And everybody's like, well, Phoenix doesn't work as a hockey market. I'm like, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But you can't judge it by this. Yeah. This is not the way that you judge it as a market. And I would say some of those things about Tampa. But what I would also say is it's tough to get people ingrained. So if you are the Orioles and you're trying to replicate something, you might be able to sustain success doing the Rays thing. But would it work? Would the community embrace it? if the players were constantly going.
No, I don't know. Baltimore's a loyal town that way. I think the plan now is to develop stars and hang on to them. That is what I'm getting from all
I
this.
hope.
Well,
I hope that's the case.
It better be.
Right.
I mean, they've tested some patience around here.
Have they ever?
The crowd on night 2 was minuscule. It's kind of embarrassing. But then again, this is Baltimore. You got to give me a reason to go to the game.
Bruce, Jerry Eisenberg from the New York Star Ledger, right? Yeah. Legendary columnist. And I got to remember the quote. He was writing one time about the Preakness. And I'm a Kentucky Derby guy. I've done my show from I love it. My wife's got family down that way. I love it. And Jerry Eisenberg, it's wonderful. Oh, when the radio station went under here, one of the first offers I had was from Louisville, and I literally had to sit down with my wife and say, I know we're committed to being here, but tell me why you wouldn't. Tell me why you wouldn't want to go there.
Yeah.
But Jerry Eisenberg once wrote, and I'm paraphrasing, so I apologize for this, but because it stayed with me forever. In Louisville, the Kentucky Derby is a fairy tale. In Baltimore, the Preakness is a horse race. You can't convince people here that something is something that it isn't.
But what is Baltimore? Baltimore is not pretentious that way.
No, we're very straightforward.
Yeah.
We're not jerks. We're not New York.
I'm a come here. I wasn't born
here. Right.
And that's one of the things.
But you've been here for long enough that you very much are one of us.
Well, thank you. But and that's quite a compliment, believe me. But one of the things I loved most about Baltimore from the very beginning is that there's just not a lot of BS.
No.
I mean, you know where you
let's get to the point. Just cut the crap. Cut all the sales pitch.
Yeah.
Get to the point.
Yeah.
Let's have an actual conversation. Let's get through all of the minutia, all the back and forth. Let's cut all that. We put everything on the table and let's go. Let's get things figured out, right? Like that's the way that we operate around here.
Except nothing ever gets figured out.
There's a lot of that too. You're unfortunately right about that, Bruce. All right, I want to do something with you this morning, if I could.
All right. Don't make me cuss.
You can do whatever you want. We're on the internet.
I'm trying not to break character.
I don't do that. It's typically. I think every now and then after a Ravens game, Reed and I will have some fun with it. But other than that, we don't do it here. We do a segment. We've done it over the years called Definitive Power Rankings. It's like everybody else does.
Okay.
It means nothing, but it's just fun lists.
Right.
And I want from you, you can be whatever number it is. I want from you the most fascinating figures that you have been around in covering sports in Baltimore for the last 3+ decades.
Okay. How many? 5?
You decide what the number is. All right? You decide what the number is. And that's why we're going to give you a break to think about it. We're going to keep having I want to talk about you. I want to talk about what you're doing. I want to do all that. But before we wrap up, I want Bruce Cunningham's definitive power rankings. So 1 being the most fascinating.
Just since I've been here.
Since you've been here. The folks that you've actually covered, that you've gotten to know, you spent time around, the whole thing. With hoping that there's maybe somebody on the list, everybody's like, who? That guy? Really?
There might be.
That's what I'm looking for, all right, from you this morning. Okay. Bruce Cunningham is in studio with us. We got a lot to talk about. We're already 20 minutes in, and look at where we are. Today's show also brought to you by Glory Days Grill. Seasonal menu available right now. The opener, the pork belly with the Korean No. 2 sauce. It's so freaking good. I can't put it into words. But they got other things I haven't even had a chance to try yet, and I'm looking forward to getting over there and trying it, like the baseball cut sirloin with the blue cheese, the grilled shrimp with garlic butter, a strawberry salmon salad. Sounds pretty good to me. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports. Get your order in at glorydaysgrill.com. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Hey, O's families, break out your orange and black for Kids Opening Day on April 17th, when the O's take on the New York Yankees. Be one of the first 7,500 fans 14 and under to receive an Orioles Pop-It toy. And after the game, kids are invited to take to the field and run the bases like the pros. All presented by Wise Markets. Plus, experience a family fun day at the yard with caricatures, the Easter Bunny, and more. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of Camden Yards with Kids Opening Day. Buy now at Orioles.com/kids.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people, people like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets with Glenn Clark and Paul Valley every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Bruce Billick and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and even a few winners. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday at 11:40 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Baseball is back, and so is the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash-fried pork belly with our popular Korean No. 2 sauce, and take a bite out of the Crunch Burger, topped with home run sauce, white American cheese, and house-made chips. It also features irresistible options like a baseball-cut sirloin with blue cheese, grilled shrimp with garlic butter, and a strawberry salmon salad. And then there's the closer, the Cracker Jack Sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jack. This menu will be gone at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com to find out more. Great food, good sports.
Baseball is back. I'm Paul Valley.
And I'm Zach Goodman.
You can find us live every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon talking all things Orioles and Major League Baseball.
Like the debuts of Adley Rutschman and Grayson Rodriguez.
And how the rotation and bullpen are rounding into form. Watch us live at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and facebook.com/PressBoxSports.
Or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio.
That's the Bat Around, live with the latest in baseball coverage every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon.
We can't imagine why you'd want to, but you can watch GCR live. It's at facebook.com/PressBoxSports. And try to guess whether these guys are wearing any pants.
All right, back in here on GCR. We wore pants today, but Bruce is retired now, so he might have actually been okay if we had said.
You know what? It's my first time out of sweats.
Dude, what a life, man.
Since April 1st. But like Jerry told George, sweats means you've given up.
Okay, wait a second. But you haven't given up.
No, I haven't given up at all.
So let's talk about you.
All right.
All right. You're doing the radio show on Saturdays.
Yeah. And we're supposed to do some more.
Okay.
But I haven't had time to sit down with Chuck Sapienza
Yep.
about it because he's been too busy with you bozos.
Well, now wait a second.
Now
wait a second.
No, eventually we're going to talk, and I'm going to do some more stuff during the week.
Cool.
But I don't want to do all that much. I've done plenty.
So okay, let's talk about that. Yeah. What is it that you want? Because I remember like Mills. We having the conversation with Mills when he retired, and I was like, dude, it doesn't sound like you're retired at all. Yeah. It just sort of sounds like you're not getting up at 2 a.m. anymore.
Yeah, and my main thing is I'm not getting home at midnight anymore.
Right.
I got so tired of that.
I don't blame you.
45 years.
Yeah.
45
it's nuts.
years.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing I didn't want to do, and I don't want to work weekends and holidays anymore. And that was really.
Oh yeah, sure.
So the nightly news thing, it just wore me down. And when you say wore me down, when I say 45 years, it wore me
I believe it.
down.
I believe it. Yeah.
So contract came up, and I started thinking about it probably close to 2 years ago, and told a very select handful of people, Morgan Adsit among them. And they kept the secret, and I just was able to sort of ease my way into it. It was important for me to say when I was done. Somebody I really respect. He was almost 70 years old, and a young news director who was probably half his age sat across the desk and said, "Your career's over." And he told me, he said, the best thing that can happen to you if you're someplace for a long time is that you get to decide when you're done. And I've never, ever forgotten that.
Bruce, can I ask? Because I remember when we wanted to talk to you about it, you were emotional about it.
Yeah.
The Ravens thing.
Yeah. That was the emotion there came from I have a mirror. I see what color my hair is.
Yeah.
I was losing something off my game, and I was making mistakes and not meaning to. And knowing when to leave is an important skill in life.
That's interesting. It's really interesting.
And I'd rather leave before I start to become a burden or start to, perform.
People are talking about you behind your back
and all
and
that stuff,
I respect that. I respect the fact that you get to say, like, I made the decision. I knew it was time for me, and I got some life to live now. I got some things that I want to do. I respect the hell out of it. I think it's an incredible thing to be able to say.
I hope that will happen for you. You know, I was talking to people.
I got to actually accomplish something in order for that to be the case, Bruce.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
I got to accomplish something.
Hey, Jerry Coleman's doing 16
My
ratings
God,
a night.
man.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
My God.
Your show with the partner, Rita.
Yeah,
that
I'm very
sounds
excited
really
about
cool.
that. I'm really excited. But Rita's amazing.
I get a kick
and,
out of her.
It's a voice our city needs,
Oh, yeah.
and we've worked well together. We did the Tyus Bowser show together this past season. We do the game day stuff together. I love Rita, and in fact, like as Paul and I had talked about, Chuck's talked to me about doing this a few times, and Chuck's a stand-up guy.
I like Chuck
everything
a lot.
about Chuck.
Yeah.
And he's talked to me a couple times over the years, and I've literally just sort of been like, I do a lot of things, man. You know, like I do the Loyola stuff. I got a job at Stevenson. I was still doing radio for a while.
But see, you're the broadcast version of, say, Todd Karpovich.
Sure,
You
right.
got to work
Piece it all together.
everywhere all the
Exactly right.
time.
Piece
You
it
know,
all
that's
together.
How it works now. I was talking to Peter Schmuck not long ago.
Yeah.
And he said that he and I may be two of the last dinosaurs. And I said, well, yeah, there's a bunch of reasons why that's true. I said, what do you mean? He said, we got whole careers at this, you know?
It's a great point.
Salaries
It's a
and
great
benefits
point,
and
right?
didn't have to scuffle.
It ain't going to be like that for
No.
nope.
I
Nope.
think those days are already
This
gone.
is the way it works.
Yeah.
People always say, like, you're always working. Like, I gotta.
That-
I got 2 kids,
if
man.
if you don't keep swimming, you'll die.
Hopefully they never want to go to college because I had to buy Paul McCartney tickets, and it's just not going to work
You
if
know
they
what?
want to go to college.
I wasn't going to do it.
Really?
I wasn't going to do it. He
Why?
was it's horribly overpriced.
Oh, I agree with that.
I started out as a disc jockey playing records on the radio, and I know about concerts.
Yep.
And I, what was it, $375?
Yep.
No.
Okay.
And plus, I'm going to say something unpopular. I don't give
Uh-oh.
a crap.
All right, here we go.
If you look at
Wait, don't get me canceled.
if
Whatever you
look-
do.
no, if you look at solo careers of the Beatles,
Okay,
he
I
was my
definitely
least-
rank him
my
behind-
least favorite. I was a disc jockey in the summer of '76, and I had to play silly love songs.
Yeah.
47,000 times, and then
Okay.
its sinister follow-up, "Let 'Em In."
Oh, I don't even remember that one.
Someone's
I
knocking.
don't
at
even.
the-
Remember. I remember silly love songs well. I don't remember.
Yo, you know this song. Someone's knocking at the window. Somebody's ringing the bell. Do me a favor, open the door.
Okay,
That's the
yeah,
whole song.
yeah.
That's the whole song, and it would not go away.
Okay, I would definitely rank Lennon and Harrison ahead of him. It would. I don't know that I would rank Ringo ahead
but
of him.
Ringo had
Actually, Ringo put out a record a couple years ago that was still really good, though.
Ringo had the best single of all the.
You think there was any single that was better than "I've Got My Mind Set on You"? That to me,
No,
I can't.
no.
I can't.
Ringo, of all the ex-Beatles that had big hits, my favorite is "It Don't Come Easy."
Okay, all
That
right.
record
I'll listen
jumps
to
out
that.
of the
I'll listen
speaker
to
and
that.
grabs you by
I'll
the
listen
throat.
to it.
It's great.
By the way, if you think this is something, Spiro Marikas and I have committed. We're going to do an entire hour on a personal back and forth top 10 Beatles songs here in a
Nice.
couple of weeks. So we're looking
Nice.
forward to that.
Okay.
So I still, everybody I've seen everybody, right? And I'm not, as old school as you are, clearly, but I've seen everybody except for Paul and the Stones.
Okay,
That's
I
the
get that.
entirety of the list for
I
me.
mean, I went to see them both in the '70s, and it was worth it.
And so you're good. You don't have to. For me, it's I have to.
I saw Elvis.
Wow.
I
Where'd
was
you see Elvis?
Well, I grew up. Well, I say grew up. My dad was in the military.
Okay.
And,
so you were all over the place.
all over the place. But when he got out of the military, he was a career man from World War II, and he served.
Okay.
When he got out, it was in southeastern Virginia, what they call Hampton Roads
Yeah,
now. It used to be
100%.
Tidewater.
Yep.
And we had the Virginia Squires growing up.
Oh,
We could
wow.
do an hour
Oh,
on the
wow.
Virginia Squire. Where were we going with this? See,
we
I
were,
mentioned
we
Squires.
were
The squirrel,
going with
you know.
you seeing this.
So we had the Hampton Coliseum there, which is why we had the Virginia
By
Squire.
the way, I might just turn my microphone off. Just let Bruce go.
Every band there was played the Hampton Coliseum,
Sure.
including the Grateful Dead and the Stones and McCartney, and so it was worth it.
That's
you know?
cool.
So I was dating this really cute girl who her name was Tracy.
Okay.
Tracye, spelled that way.
What is
Okay.
that?
Well,
what is that?
I don't know, but
we
that's
got to deal with that at some point.
Loved her some Elvis.
Really?
So he's going to play the Hampton Coliseum.
Well, you got to go.
So I go down there at $12.50 a piece. I was outraged. $25 for 2 concerts. And then you look at what it's costing today. No one told me he gotten fat.
Oh yeah.
So he comes out in his Carolina blue jumpsuit and his big old gut, and he sings for.
So was this before the comeback special, or was this
Way after.
the? Okay, this is
76.
down. Oh
76.
yeah,
Yeah,
this
the year
is
before he died.
yeah.
So he comes out and he's fat and he murmurs songs for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And then Elvis has left the building, and I'm like, this is it?
Yeah, but
And I was mad for years, but then it occurred to me, man, I saw
you got to see Elvis. Exactly right.
You
That's
know?
the point.
Sure.
The point is you got to see Elvis. I just spent more money to go see Van Morrison in September because I've never seen. He's playing Wolf Trap on a Wednesday night in September. I've never seen Van Morrison.
Yeah.
Because he's a recluse, right? Like
I saw the Ramones for $1 at VCU.
Well, that doesn't suck. That doesn't
The first album had just come out. Only a few people had heard of them, and they played for an hour and a half, and I bet it was 150 songs because all their songs lasted 1 minute.
Sure, right, 100%.
For $1.
Oh, that kicks ass, Bruce. That kicks ass. So I get it. It's a ton of money. It's definitely not worth it. I shouldn't do it, but I have to.
I know.
have to see Paul McCartney.
I get it, and you'll be able to say you did. I just hope it's a great show, and I hope he impresses you.
I've set my bar quite low. I just don't want it to be. I've said I don't think it's going to be all that good. People tell me I saw Willie Nelson last summer, right? And everybody said to me, "Be prepared. He doesn't sing anymore.
Yeah.
He just has his son sing all the songs, and he stands up there and he holds his guitar, and you're just paying for the right to see Willie Nelson." He sang the majority. He played down at Merriweather. It was a great show. Nathaniel Rateliff played with him. Tyler Childers, a wonderful show.
Oh, I like Nathaniel.
Dude, he's unbelievable, right? It's just, oh my God, it's a party. It's just it's incredible.
A lot of sweat.
Yeah, there's a lot of sweat.
Yeah.
He sang most of the songs, and I was like, the bar was so low for me that just hearing Willie Nelson meander through "Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys" was enough. I was like, I have gotten my money's worth because I got to see Willie Nelson, and he sang through a couple of songs that I love. I'll take that. That's a high five. And if that's about what I get from Paul McCartney, I'll take that.
I'm not a big country fan, but Ken Burns' country music series is great. I never miss his stuff.
I mean, come on, it's Ken Burns.
Willie Nelson was on there, and he said that "Crazy" was supposed to be stupid. Stupid. I'm stupid. And the record company convinced him to change it to "Crazy." They thought "stupid" might be
made the right decision on that.
But phonetically, it works.
It does work, but I think that it wouldn't have had the same. I don't think it would have existed the way that it does in the zeitgeist had it been stupid.
And you know what? I never sing on my own show. So see, that's one.
There we go. I'm stealing that over here. I'm stealing that. We might, next time you come back, we're actually going to prepare musical numbers. We're going to make it like the old telethon you used to do. We're going to prepare some numbers for the day.
That was fun.
All right, so you're going to do more radio.
Yeah.
But is that it? Is that all you want to do?
That's all I want to do. I don't know what the future is going to bring. I'm not even going to file for Social Security for another 2.5 years.
Okay.
You know, I've got some open
You're all right.
space in front of me. And it's funny because I told you how young I was when I started. I've had nothing but closed space in front of me.
Yep.
Since 1977 is when I started. You know, and I'm almost through the second week, and I just can't believe how glorious this is.
It's awesome.
If I want to sit there, I sit there.
That's awesome.
If I want to go outside, I go outside. And I don't owe anybody.
Right.
anything.
You don't. There's no appointment you have to make.
Nothing.
There's no
nothing.
That's tremendous.
And I wish that for both of you.
I
I
hope so. You know, I was so happy. My father retired a few years ago, and I went down. He worked for the government his entire life. He was down at the Department of Labor in D.C., and I went down the last day, and like the dignity of being able to walk out and say, I'm good now, right? I got grandkids. That's what I want to do. I want to spend time with them. That's what it's all about. And I know you got grandkids, and I respect the hell out of that. And I pray that one day that my life will allow for that, but we might need to start. We might need to go viral. We might need Paul to die on the air or something in order to get a little more attention.
I have 5 of them, and if you have grandkids, I hope you don't have that many. Do you have any idea what Christmas costs at my house?
Oh man. Oh, and you got to be the cool grandfather too.
No,
what do they call you, Bruce?
Through.
What do they call you?
Pop.
Pop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got to come through. You can't leave them hanging.
But I mean, every Christmas I'm rolling the dice. You know, how are we going to do this?
Now you retired. Yeah, Bruce says now that he's not working. Then he gets to November and he's like, you know what? I might have to pick up a gig.
Christmas
might have to pick up a gig at that point.
Maybe I could go down and flip burgers or something. You know.
Nah, you could just work a game or something. Like somebody call you and say, hey, come call a game for us, right?
You know what? I am doing that for Fox 45.
Okay, what are you doing?
Big 33 coming up May 30th.
Okay, so there you go.
And then the high school state championships, they'll be back on this year.
Great. I'm happy to. That's news to me. I know that was disappointing to a lot lot of people that they were not broadcast last year, or they weren't free broadcast last year.
They adjusted it to create, let more teams have it because of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But we can televise 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
We can't televise 6. There's just not enough airtime. That's quite a commitment, and you can play double headers every night, but that's a lot to ask of your crew.
It's tough. It's real tough.
It's
real
funny.
Tough.
We do a double header on the 3rd day. There's just no way around it. Saturday.
So it's Thursday, Friday, and then 2 on Saturday.
2 on Saturday. By the time I had Wally Williams and Doug Duvall.
Yep.
Neither of whom have ever been at a loss for words in their life.
100%.
By the third quarter of that second game.
Yeah, it's a grind. Remember, I did it on radio. I did when you guys were doing TV. I was doing radio for the championship games for a little while, which is great. Popovic and I did it. It was a great gig.
Oh, we snatched him. He's on our sideline.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah,
Well, he was outstanding. He was outstanding as a radio analyst doing those games, and it's a lot of fun, right? Like, we were just talking about this with Tom Kelso. I wish that it would be back in Baltimore. I wish that it would be just the opportunity for those kids, and I do think my buddy Bo Smolka was saying it the other day. He's like, this is public money that we're talking about. If there's that much public money, we should be able to figure out a way for the average resident of the state of Maryland to have more of a touch. I understand the Ravens are trying to protect their facility.
No,
I get that entirely.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, Navy has really worked out, and let me explain why. That's in a safe part of town.
Yep.
They've got massive parking lots all over the place.
That's true. Park right there.
And it's in the state capital, which the MPSSAA likes. They kind of like the idea.
Okay.
So it's worked out for everybody, and Navy loves hosting it. So I like that idea.
All right. I hear you. Boy, it's a lot. What it means to the kids to be able to play
I know.
at an NFL stadium.
No question about that.
I think there's something to be said for that. All right. Definitive power rankings. Paul's going to post these a little bit later today at glennclarkradio.com. So do you have a number?
I'm going to have to go from the top down.
So you're going to start with your number one.
Yeah, my number one.
Okay. All right. So what we're doing is the most fascinating.
Oh. See, you didn't tell me that and give me.
I thought that was the word I used.
Field.
No. I mean, people that you got to know. We can give you a couple minutes. We can talk about some other things and let you think about it, right? Like we can even take another break if you need before we do this.
Okay, we're gonna.
All right. That's fine. Yeah. I want to do most fast. We'll talk for a second, then we'll take a break, and then we'll wrap up the hour by doing this. Most fascinating folks that you got to cover and got to know during your years, the ones that you would say, like I'll tell you that there have been great athletes that have come along, but there have also been other guys that I just got to know, and were genuine. Anthony Levine, is one of the most fascinating humans that I have gotten to know over the many years, and not nearly as many as you, but the many years that I've been here.
All right,
he fascinates me.
I got you.
All right,
Don Matthews.
Don Matthews, who was of course
the CFL Stallions.
He's number one.
I won't say number one.
All right, I'm going to write these names down. All right, here we go.
Numbers next to him.
Okay.
Don Matthews on there. Don Matthews in Birmingham caught a guy, a receiver named Joe Washington, and we used to laugh because I did the games with the other Joe Washington. Well, he dropped a couple passes, didn't play well, missed some blocks or whatever, and he goes to get on the team bus, and Matthews blocks his way. And he said,
never heard this story.
He said, well, what are you doing? And he says, well, I'm trying to get on the bus. He says, this bus is for team members only.
Oh, my God.
He said, what are you doing? And he said, you're off this football team, son. I can't use you. It's a competitive situation. And you knew when you heard Matthew say competitive situation.
Holy
somebody
crap.
was screwed. So one of the business guys runs out and grabs in his pocket, and he looks at it and he says, I got $400. See ya. And we drive off.
Wow.
The bus drives off, and you just the picture of him standing there watching that bus with that cash.
This is leaving the guy on the tarmac. This is exactly what we talk about. I never knew that.
Oh, man. They had a kicker the first season.
Was it Igwebuike?
Donald Igwebuike.
You don't know that I was 12 years old, 11, 12 years old. I was in love.
Did you listen to us do the games?
Of course I listened to you do the games. I was invested in every single thing. Because I didn't have the Colts move when I was
I get
a baby. This was the first touch of football that I had in my life. I was in love with it.
All they did was win.
Oh, it was so great.
It was glorious.
It was hot as hell in the summer at Memorial Stadium.
They told me I was the first U.S.-born announcer to call a great game.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And
that's a cool little.
They got beat late in the game. Bad call. Pasaglia kicked a field goal in ball game. And I remember Matthews on the plane. He said to the players, he said, if you put yourself in a position where one BS call can cost you the game, then you don't deserve to win the blank, blank, blank game. And he sat back down.
It's a good point, actually.
No, he was a fascinating character.
Okay, I like that. That's the type of guy that I'm looking for.
But
I
got a free associate for a while because I don't want to forget anybody.
That's okay. That's okay. Let's talk a couple quick Baltimore sports topics. Then we'll take one more break. Then we'll finish up with this. Where you are, you obviously, as we talk about football coming to town, you, of course, closely associated with the Ravens because of your role as not only a broadcaster but public address announcer for years. Where they go moving forward with Lamar Jackson, we can't get away from it, right? No. It's awkward. It's awkward that Lamar Jackson's not even engaging them in conversation. There are opinions that people have about you can't pay him $60 million or whatever. He's trying to bend you over a barrel. He's trying to milk every I still am more than 50% convinced that at some point this is going to get done. I don't really understand why Lamar Jackson isn't forcing it now because, as I keep saying, the quarterback's got all the leverage.
You know what? Jason LaConfora, who I enjoy, he hollers. He like George Costanza. There's a lot of George Costanza in Jason. But Jason said if they had put the right number in front of him, he'd have signed by now. You can talk about all the other stuff and all the, peripheral and, I'm focused on the Super Bowl and blah, blah, blah. All that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
If they'd have put the number that he couldn't say no to in front of him, they'd have him signed by now. I'm not saying they're trying to lowball him, but he hasn't seen a number that he likes. I mean, that's obvious, right?
I mean, look, it's either, if that's the case, right, why doesn't he demand a trade? That's the part of this that I can't figure out.
Yeah.
Why are you willing to sign up to make less money this season?
Yeah.
If the answer is the Ravens, the number was 35 or whatever, and if that's the case, that is a joke. It's what Kirk Cousins is making.
It's what quarterbacks cost.
Well, but
it
costs more than that. I mean, it costs.
I don't want to pay $300,000 for a BMW, but
do you want a BMW or not? Right, 100%.
Right?
That's the way it goes. So if the Ravens really did say to him $35 million, and Lamar laughed and said, "Come on, dude, that's." Kirk Cousins is making $35 million bucks. Stop. If that's the case, then why wouldn't he say, "Hey, there's somebody." Did you see what the Browns just paid Deshaun Watson?
Yeah.
The Panthers don't have a quarterback.
No.
Falcons don't have a quarterback.
Right.
Seahawks don't have a quarterback. The list goes on. The Saints don't really have a quarterback. There's any number of teams.
That guy in Miami's crazy. He's liable to do something
Oh,
stupid.
my God. Apparently they were trying to get Tom Brady to own the team, and he was trying to do a Roger Dorn. And activate himself. That's right. That's right, 100%. So there's all these options. Why wouldn't he just say, if this is the case, go ahead and trade me? There are plenty of teams that would be more than willing to pay me the money that it is that I'm looking for.
Just to give you a blanket answer to all of these questions, there is no agent involved.
Makes it.
You've been at this long enough to know that all, and I mean all, of the information about contract stuff comes from agents.
We never had a problem going to Joe Linta when we wanted to know something about it. Never had a problem at all.
That seat is empty.
Yep.
So that information isn't flowing.
Makes it tough.
None of us know anything.
That's why it's so.
Eric, and Bisciotti sit back and say, when he's ready, he'll sign. I've never seen anything like it in all my years.
I'm telling you, it's fascinating. It's so, and people get sick of us talking about it every day, but it's lingering over this organization. We can't ignore it.
Would you go to court without a lawyer?
No.
That's kind of what Lamar is doing.
And I've had to go to court a time or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I got another name for
you.
you.
All right, yes.
Justin Tucker.
Oh, I mean, my God. Modern Renaissance man.
I was going to use that exact phrase. I want to give you a big star, but I'm just trying to think who was really interesting otherwise. Let's keep going.
Okay.
But Justin, the obvious stuff, the opera singer and all that. But Justin's also funny as hell.
He's very funny.
He told me, as far as he knew, he was the only fine arts major from the University of Texas in the NFL.
I believe that. I mean, I would believe that.
Fine arts.
Yeah, right? Like, who else would there be?
We went out. It was on Mother's Day. And I don't know why we were both there, but Morgan and I went out on a Sunday morning because Ravens practice. There was something important going on. It might have even been an OTA. And this skinny kid comes out wearing number 6, and he starts kicking.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is 55, 60, 65 yards. And we're just looking at each other like,
this guy's a thing.
So we call one of the press guys. It wasn't Chad. I can't remember which one it was. So, well, who is that? And he looks at his list and says, I got to go check. So he ran in the building, and he runs back out, and he says, kid's named Tucker. He's from Texas.
We're bringing him up here, taking a look at him.
So
right.
I literally was there at the birth of Justin Tucker.
Bruce, there's so many great stories from that year. We did the show from the Combine that year. John came over. One of the rare times that John would sit down and do it, like at the Combine.
Tremendous guy.
And by the way, as I've said this to him, when you get John away from the season, it's wonderful. You do these conversations in the season. He's guarded. But you get him away from the season when there's not an opponent on the schedule, when he's not thinking about what they're going to take out of it, and he'll talk to you. And I remember he was talking about the kickers, and it was right after Cunningham had missed the kick. And I said, "Oh, you're looking at the kickers," and he realized I had caught him. And he was like, "Oh, no. We like Billy. We like Billy. Billy's our guy."
Well, that's what he's got to say.
But he had let on accidentally just by referencing, we asked him something stupid about, hey, what's the process? What is it that you guys are trying to glean? And he's like, well, I'll give you an example. Last night we were looking at the kickers, and I was like, oh, you're looking at the kickers, huh? You're interested in a kick? That's something. And he was like, oh, no, Glenn, we love Cundiff. the piece that I wrote from the old website, I've never gotten more clicks on a story that I've ever written than the story that I wrote that compared the decision. This is so embarrassing. Compared the decision for which kicker to go with to my whatever birthday it was, my 12th birthday, when I had to choose which friends I wanted to bring with me to the ESPN zone. I wrote a piece about this for the old website, and I said, it's awkward. It's an awkward spot to be in. Are you really going to trust somebody who's never made a kick before in their life, or are you going to turn back to it was an incredibly awkward decision to make, and there wasn't an obvious answer at that point.
No.
Because Billy Cunningham, outside of one kick, had been a good kicker in Baltimore.
I've never told this story publicly. Somebody from the Ravens came to me and said that Cunningham had complained that I was using more inflection when Tucker would make a kick.
Are you serious?
No, that actually happened.
Are you serious?
Yes. And I'm thinking to myself, you might have bigger things.
Dude, it's one of the most insightful things I've heard. If that's the case, 100%, I can understand why they'd be more inclined to go with if you were that rattled by the inflection that the public address announcer is using over a kick, yeah, you just might not be cut out for this, man.
And then all those years later, he makes a kick in the preseason game, and I say, 52-yard field goal from Kyle Bowler.
That was the one.
And that was
that.
Yeah, that really helped
make a decision.
And Tucker was cool about it. I saw him after the game, and he put his hand on my chest, and he said, "Hey, good to see you, Kyle Bowler." And it's been a running joke between the two of us, but. You know
what's cool about Justin too? During the pandemic, of course, we didn't see anybody, right? So I probably hadn't seen Justin, and I also don't go over there the way that I used to. It's probably been a couple years. He did an event with my buddy Chris Ruling at Great Eights Memorabilia last year, and I wander over, and it was an event. OJ was there. It was a really neat event, and he starts yelling at me from across the room. He has stayed his memory, his knowledge of who people are, it doesn't wane. He's fascinating in that way.
He's what I call a first name guy.